Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Lionel, and I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. Today, we are covering BelAir. These are the final episodes, particularly Season 4, Episode 6. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video. You can subscribe, and you can leave your comments below. Now, let's get into these episodes. All right, y'all. So we're going to start off with Episode 6. I'm sure it's not going to be all collectively. But hey, I know that I probably should have had these videos up earlier. However, I just didn't have it in me to go on and rush to be in the algorithm of getting out material and content for you guys. Well, one, I love this show. And I think it has been completely unfair as to how Peacock has just spat out this season to us. I hate that we are in this world of streaming, and I know I have to get with the times. I do get that, I just think that it's totally unfair, especially to people that actually love the show. Of course, we've been on the whole system of having weekly episodes and all that. It's just like, what? One, we were just told that there was going to be a final season. And in 3 weeks, now we got, 8 episodes to try to resolve everything and then start a new chapter for these characters. I'm like, that's not cool. I think that they could have won another 2 seasons. But anyways, I'm going to quit griping. Let's get into this because even though I was feeling bitter, there was some sweetness because I had all the feels in this episode. We start off with the Banks fussing over Aunt Viv because we left off in the last episode where Aunt Viv was having pains in her belly. The doctor has her on bed rest, and Aunt Viv is very appreciative, but she's like, I'm not an invalid, don't mess up my flow here. Thank you for all the help. Anyways, surprisingly, Hillary has come back from Costa Rica, which we are good to see her. She's kind of more got this bohemian afro look, which is pretty cool. In the next scene, we have Will talking to Vi in regards to Stapleton. Of course, Vi is going on at how I know that this is a great thing for you going to Stapleton, but Will is not really sure about it. And he gave his reasons. The coach wants him to just focus on basketball, and he also wants to study business. Vi says that Will doesn't have to be a CEO at the age of 18. And he's saying, well, no, I just want to have the opportunity to do both and all that. Vi says that she has a say in his future. I don't think so. I disagree. You're only here to guide him, and I don't think that was fair. However, if you know the character of Vi, she's kind of always been the motherboard. At least in the comedy, Vi was the one that kind of guided everyone, where she had to grow up really fast and be the older sister and basically the parent for the other children, and she kind of just told them what to do. And that was her thing right there as far as with Will. And I think that the writers did everything they could to bring in all the isms from the Fresh Prince of BelAir series into this season 4, and that's just one of the isms. Vi said, look, you don't have any other choices. This is a free ride, and you need to take it. Don't block your blessings. That had me to just think at how many, and I'll speak specifically to the Black community, as the limited choices and how we are forced to do certain things in order to have a stable job or have a stable career. And this doesn't just belong to the Black community, but I'm speaking to them specifically. A lot of people go to the Army just to have some type of stable career where you can get an education. You see all the benefits of that, and you just kind of get roped into that. And of course, sometimes it's been war and you lose your life. But you do the things because everything is not afforded to you as it is for your white counterparts. And other races, they get something a little bit more of a benefit to get into these Ivy League schools and HBCUs and all that stuff. Well, that's Black folks, but there's greater advantages than with Black folks. And a lot of times people got to go into trade school because that you're not going to be able to afford to go into these different colleges because of the price of it. You can't do it. Then we flash back to 8 years prior. Vi is getting on Will for how he's acting in school. His grades are very good, but they're just trying to figure out what is going on with him. He says that he's bored. And then Vi was like, your teacher was right. You are not being challenged. Obviously, Will is an accelerated child. I think that there was hints of that, or at least displayed as to Will and his abilities. I don't think that they really played on that because they kind of made, with the comedy, made Will be a little bit more scamish as to how to get away with this and that, and not really rise up to his potential. And I think a drama has been able to not allow that to go on and to really, really hone in on all of his talents. That's my opinion. Next up, we have Phil and Jeffrey. Uncle Phil is going to the FBI to confess the wrongdoings that he has done, as far as washing his money throughout all of these different businesses. And Jeffrey's like, "We're at the end, stay the course, da 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 da." Phil says, "Is there anything else that I need to know?" And Jeffrey says that everything has been covered. And I believe what Phil knows, or at least suspects, that he's still within the business, but not really telling him that. And Jeffrey's just lying right now. So Carlton and Will, they go talk with Hillary. They're venting because Will's already upset because his mom wants him to go to Stapleton. Carlton does not want to go to Princeton. And Hillary said, "Look, I understand all that good stuff. It's good to just get your feelings out there. Tell them where you want to go, what you want to do, because it is still your life." She gave him a word that she now lives by after being in Costa Rica, pura vida, to love with your whole spirit and not to live in fear. Because Carlton was very scared to go to his dad because his dad expects a lot out of him and he doesn't want him to be disappointed or anything of that nature. After Hillary said what she had to say, Carlton did ask, is your grief gone? And Hillary said, no, it's still there. What she has learned is that grief doesn't have to disappear to make room for joy. It can be side by side. And she says, do the things that scare you. Phil and Will talks to Phil about what he wants to do as far as college. Phil says that it's your future. I agree. Of course, Phil said, that you're pretty late on the admissions. Will says, well, you told me that no isn't a final answer, and it's just the beginning of a conversation. I said, wow, yeah. And also another saying that Uncle Phil said is that winners stay and negotiate. And Phil also said this, which I thought was very powerful. Your net worth, your network is your net worth. The connections you got is what's going to help you win. I love it. I love it. Carlton and Phil, there's a flashback. Carlton, he's trying to solve these math problems, and it's not really going well. Phil is there to try to help him along and also to encourage him to do better. They're about to go out to Philly for the summer or spring break. No, it's spring break. And Phil gives him the task, continue to study while you're even out there in Philly. In present time, Phil talks with Carlton before leaving. He said that I really need you to step up right now for your mom. Be there for her in every way, just to take care of her because of everything that's going on. And he also gave him a key to the safe to let him know what's all going on. And Carlton said, is there anything happening? He said, no, everything's going to be fine. I just want you to be also on alert as to what's going on around here. Of course, he's lying. Phil says goodbye to Viv. And during that talk, Viv is like, you're talking like you're not going to be here. And Phil said, everything's going to work out. So a renowned doctor comes and visits Aunt Viv, who is white. And basically, it's trying to say that, oh, you're fine, just rest. She talks about this itching that she's got. And he thinks it's nothing and just says, I'll order some mild hydrocortisone and you should be well. Basically nothing, not really attending and all that. Hillary is just at the point of, Mom, I think you need to really take into this. Viv is not trying to be a problem or whatever. The doctor leaves anyways. And Hillary said, no, you know your body. Trust it. And I'm glad there's yet another television program that's keeping up with talking about the care or the lack of care that doctors give black people or people of color. All right. So Will, he's got this board up, and has all of the people that he needs to contact. Who can I connect to get this, that done? Of course, he's getting a lot of no's. I think Doc, remember Doc from season 2, he's back to really help him out. Get a guy from one of the colleges that Will wants to go to come at least see him to get the door open. Something, you know. They were trying to get back to the admissions dude, Trent Cunningham, who was Drew's father. But he's not taking any of the calls, especially since him and Carlton got arrested a few episodes ago. They talk a little bit more about the whole college situation, and on Carlton's end, he's still not really convinced to really talk to his dad about anything. He gets a little bit passionate as Will is like, what's the big deal? You know, it's still your future. And Carlton says passionately, Uncle Phil expects more from me as far as eating with you, you know? And we are going to really tie everything in as to a lot of things of what Carlton has been experiencing as we saw his journey since season 1 until now. It's not so much that Uncle Phil is this bad person or this bad taskmaster, but there's been a lot of pressure and stress and anxiety that's been inherited onto him in order to be the best or a good black man out here to excel and all that stuff. But we'll get to that. But Will said, you know, you can punk out if you want to. It's your future. So we get another flashback. Carlton's in Philly as far as the spring break situation is happening. And Carlton's having a problem with the math problem. Will comes in and he's able to do all the work and all that. Will also shares that his mom and also Aunt Viv were talking about me taking this test to get into a school out towards their way in California. And Carlton says, is that BelAir Academy? And he says, yes. Immediately, Carlton goes into his insecurities and says, you wouldn't like it out there. You know, you wouldn't just fit out there, you know. So that started working on Will's insecurities to where he didn't really want to be out there because, of course, those are where the rich folks are at and all that, and how we'll be able to connect with them. Of course, he came out here and was a splash to BelAir. Now back to present time. Phil ends up confessing to someone. It's a lawyer or whatever, the police, and pulls in DA Fred. This is Lisa's dad. If y'all didn't know. Basically, after Jeffrey had told him, or gave him an ultimatum, you got to do this, or they're going to come after your family. And Uncle Phil said no. We found out after that meeting that Uncle Phil contacted Fred, and then Fred got involved. He knew that he couldn't just run to the FBI themselves, but they were setting up a trap for the FBI to catch them in order for this whole situation to come up. So because there were so many eyes from Dominique's camp up against Uncle Phil. Phil thinks that he's done with this whole situation since he's confessed everything, and he says they need more information for this whole organization so that they can have a clean arrest. And they want information on Jeffrey. All right, so he comes home, and Viv is very relieved because she didn't know if he was going to be locked up forever or not. He told him that he made the full confession, but they still want Dominique and Jeffrey. Doc meets up with Will and also the new coach, possibly a potential at his new college that he wants to attend. After some deliberation, the coach was like, look, if admissions clears for you to come, then come holler at me. Because at the school, the other kids aren't just excelling within sports, they're also excelling within the grades and all that good stuff. So that's one breakthrough for Will. Ashley and Eli, they're at school. Eli has on a skirt. Of course, one of the principal came by and basically was trying to reprimand him, saying, hey, this is against school policy. And Eli says, I'm not changing because you guys know my pronouns. They are he, they, and all that. So, no. So then the principal ends up giving him a detention. Later on, Ashley does somehow, she was able to get into detention to stand with him in regards to all this. So Carlton is talking with Viv, and she's painting a picture of Regina, who was her sorority headmistress person. So then Aunt Viv curtails conversation, saying that, hey, I've always had this dream growing up to be this painter. But her parents had scared her off from actually trying to go to where she wanted to go to fulfill her dreams. However, she was scared to do it. She ended up applying to Howard and submitted the application at the last moment. And then she lets it know that Hillary let it slip because Carlton figured out that somebody must have told her in regards to him not wanting to go to Princeton. He says, that's just going to be mad. And it's going to be mad if I try to get out of Princeton. And Aunt Viv says, no, you owe it to yourself to follow the path that fits you. And he'll get over it, as far as Uncle Phil. Hillary and Ashley finally talk, and Hillary's coming up with an anti-inflammatory soup for Aunt Viv. Ashley then wants to talk a little bit about Eli. She said, I got your text. Hillary said it. She kind of just helps encourage or at least brighten up Ashley at the moment. And they get on Instagram or whatever live, and they talk about the different things that are going on. She shares a story about Aunt Viv. And after releasing those symptoms and how doctors just treat black women and all that, a person was on live that said, hey, I have the same symptoms. And they basically want to talk to, Hillary and Ashley want to talk to that person to see what they could help with. So there's another flashback to Will and Viv. Will actually got into a BelAir Academy. Like, he scored like 2 points from being perfect, like a 98 out of 100, and they want him there. Will doesn't want to go. He says that he doesn't want to fit in. And then he knows that he's not going to fit in. And Vibe was like, who told you that? I'll say this much. He did not rat out Carlton. And then he was talking about, who's going to be here for the other dude. The dude from season 1. They both got into trouble. I'm actually ready to do a whole rewatch from seasons 1 till now. Especially, look, I know how you networks do, and y'all will take off shows that I still want to see. So hopefully it'll be there for a little while, but I'm going to do a rewatch. What's his name? Trent? No, his name. It was something to do with the T, but whatever. So Vi said, look, your crown is waiting on you as soon as you find the courage to wear it. I said, Lord Jesus. All these little golden nuggets in this episode, I promise you, I was tearing up the whole episode. So Will finally runs into Mr. Cunningham, and he's asking, hey, can I get some time? And he's like, I really don't have any time for you. I think he even mentioned the arrest or whatever, but they're in school. And then, as they're about to turn the corner, Miss Frankie is there and basically said, why don't you just give him a chance? Will is one of those people, everyone around here ignores me, but Will is the only one that says hello to me. He actually asked about my husband and children and all of that. Other students have passed by me like I'm invisible. Basically, he's like, can you please just be a part of his success story instead of being just another hurdle in his life? And I do just want to give a little credit to the actress that's playing Miss Frankie. This is Miss Angel Lakita Moore. Angel, I've become acquainted to, at least on watching her. I don't know her at all personally. I've never even talked to her. However, I've seen her since, Lord, the comedian. I don't know why I'm drawing Kevin. Anyway, Angel, her husband, and Kev and his wife, they had this weekly review, and it was for Marriage at First Sight. And that's where I became accustomed to her. I've seen her do other things with Kev on stage. And she's been getting acting roles. Now, she did at the beginning of the season, just was kind of, I felt like an extra. But now, at the beginning of the season, they just said hi or whatever. Now, at this point, she was actually a key to Will finally getting a yes out of Mr. Trent to at least hear him out. For Will to hear him out or whatever, Or for Mr. Trent to hear Will. Yeah, that's right. And all I got to say is that always be kind because you entertain angels unaware. And I had to try tie that in with Miss Frankie because that is Angel, and you're the one that's helped intercede for Will to get a chance to get into admission so that he can get into his college of choice. So I always say treat people right, treat people nice and kind that are around you. You never know what they could do for you. Your network is your net worth. And you just don't know what those connections can really do for you. And you just thought that a janitor lady was just somebody to say hi to. You never thought that they would be beneficial into helping you out. So shout out to Miss Angel Lakita Moore. Thank you for what you've added to the season. Hillary and Aunt Viv. Okay, so they went on and ran some more tests on Aunt Viv after getting that live message. There was something that was going on with her that basically was slowing down her liver function, which the sign was is that she was itching, that something else was going on with her. Hillary is really ripping into the doctor, not in front of his face or whatever, but the doctor dropped the ball. And Hillary said, well, thanks to you, everything is well. This was also a trigger to her in regards to what happened with LaMarcus. If someone would have been there for him to help him out, then, hey, he might have still been here. But I don't think if I remember correctly, I don't think LaMarcus was taking care of himself or knew that he was in danger, but he was still doing certain things. I think that's what was going on, but I can't remember for sure. But anyways, Hillary's now into partnering up and making ancestral healing foods. And I think we're going to need that outside of just really relying on medical assistance that we see now. Everyone isn't evil, but a good portion of them are just not really meaning it for our good. But I think we're really returning back to our roots and really allowing Earth and allowing God to heal our bodies. Phil and Jeffrey, they spar. They haven't done it in a while. But anyways, this was a time for them to let out their aggression towards each other. Jeffrey found out that Phil flipped. My sister said that you would do this. And Phil was like, you said that you were out of this and now you're back in it like that? What's up with that? Well, she promised me my family back. And I'm wanting to protect my family just as you. Anyways, at this point, Phil and Jeffrey are kind of at odds, but not on speaking terms after that spar. So then Hillary invites head big sister Regina to the home. And this is the time for Aunt Viv to show the portrait of Miss Regina. And she is played by none other than the great Tyra Banks. What I do love about this little scene that they had between Aunt Viv, Hillary, and Regina is that they did something to pull in something that was very iconic for Tyra when she came on to the show. That was between Will and Jackie, because Tyra played Jackie on the comedy show, if you didn't know. Jackie, who, was Will's girlfriend during season 2, I think it was. Anyway, you just never gonna change. Da, 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 da. Oh, no, you don't. I'm gonna get the last word. Oh, no, you won't. Oh, yes, I will. It was pretty cool. But anyways, Regina said that Aunt Viv had too much mouth. But anyways, they did that exchange, and I thought that was really cool. Aunt Viv shows the portrait, and Regina was like, this isn't me. I don't show teeth, Well, Aunt Viv said, we wanted to kind of show a softer side to you and all that. And then we get into how black women have to show up into this world. Her mama taught her, Regina, that you're going to have to bend the world before it bends you. She ends up confessing that she spent so much time trying to be unshakable that I forgot to be human. So she decided to name the portrait Let That Ish Go. Yeah. So she just decided to be a softer version of herself. So many nuggets, y'all. I'm almost done, y'all. Will and Carlton. They have another talk. Carlton really has encouraging words for Will and shows his appreciation, or tells him his appreciation for him. He said that I was afraid that my dad would see something in you that I don't have. That's a lot to admit. That's a lot to admit from a man, or at least a young man. Carlton is well beyond his years, and he's able to be accountable and be vulnerable and confess it with his brother. I thought that was very phenomenal. He says to Will that, you inspire me. There's another flashback of Carlton. He gets into BelAir Academy. And the person that he's talking to, a parishioner, it looks like Phil gave a hefty donation. My question is, did Phil pay for Carlton to get into that school? What are your thoughts about that? Yeah, that was my question. And then Phil had asked right then and there, what college do you want to go to? You pick. There's like different colleges that were listed on the wall, and he chose Princeton. Fast forward to real time, he's now talking, Carlton is talking to Uncle Phil. And he just expresses himself. Phil says that, I was looking for excellence. Out of all that you shared with me, Carlton said, on paper I was. But really I was sinking on the inside trying to impress you. And I'm paraphrasing, y'all. I got really good at making people feel comfortable, even though I wasn't. He said that I let too many white boys say the N-word. People would just basically just say that Carlton is a coon, especially we could say that from season 1 Carlton. Carlton, even at his young age, was able to break the system that he had, or that he thought that he had to play, to impress his dad and to impress the people that are around him, that don't have to work as hard to do what he needs to get done, to do and to be who he needed to be Carlton Banks. And I'm trying to keep what I want to say, but I'm gonna keep it for later. But can you guess who my favorite character is on this show? I'll reveal it in episode 8. But anyways, yeah, I let too many white boys say the N-word. What's not repeated? I don't know what I was writing there. Sorry. Phil ended up talking about himself as far as attending Harvard. He did all the things that needed to be done and required. However, he pushed himself to be the best and all that. However, he just still felt like an outsider, even after all his accomplishments. He felt like an imposter, and that's exactly what he said. And that's how Carlton feels, even being at BelAir Academy. So I'm glad yes. He says that he does not want to repeat the same cycle, Carlton, from going from BelAir Academy and going into Princeton. It's just not going to work out, and I'm going to have to still put on this mask and to try to perform to make everyone else happy. And I'm not happy because I'm not living my true self. Phil says that I pushed you maybe a little too hard. He says that Princeton was never the goal. Freedom and choice. That's where your power is at. The ending scene is Will calling Vi and announcing, I've chosen my school. And he says that I'm coming home. Of course, we don't know where he's going to just yet, but in the next episode, we will. It's just a lot. I'm telling you, I was in tears. I kind of feel that way. I went to a predominantly white school, but I still kind of just knew myself in a way, but I really didn't know how to fit in a white world. Always the black kid in the classroom, and then performing for these folks, and it was a lot. And it wasn't all bad. It was just like I didn't know how to find my place, and I just never really fit in. And I don't think it's just being white, because I don't know if me being a part of a white school or whatever helped me to not to feel like I fit into some type of black spaces too. It was a constant battle, like, who am I and who's going to accept me, basically. So anyways, powerful episodes. I love them. This is episode 6. So stay with me. I'm coming right back for episode 7. And we'll get on to it. Thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe. And until the next one, peace.